حسين حسين من المهدي.
Allah, Allah.
Bro. Sometimes it just, how the hell are we here when we were cut the last?
Ay wallah. Hussein, Hussein, Abu Abdullah, Hussein, Hussein, Abu Abdullah, Hussein, Hussein, Abu Abdullah.
Alright, good to go. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the After Maghrib Podcast. If it's your first time, please subscribe. We're trying to get to 8 million subscribers. We can't do that without. Alright, start again. Take 17. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to the After Maghrib Podcast. Brothers and sisters, hope you're doing well. If you've been tuning in over the last 2 weeks, you will know that we have been talking about the ongoing situation in Gaza and in Lebanon, and today we want to continue this conversation but also branch out into other conversations. We typically don't talk about geopolitics on a week-to-week basis, but of course we are a Muslim podcast, specifically a Shia Muslim team, and because of that we look at all issues affecting the Muslim Ummah, and this is a time more than ever really where we need to come together and support our brothers and sisters in need. So if you are listening now and you don't know already, we are doing a fundraiser in collaboration with the Zahra Trust to support people, particularly in Lebanon, those who have unfortunately been displaced from their homes. 20% of the Lebanese population has had to be displaced and are now political refugees and are seeking shelter, humanitarian aid, medicine, basic essentials, and that's really why we are partnering with the Zahra Trust to try and help them. Hopefully by the time you're watching this, we have nearly hit our goal, if not already, but we need you to go to our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, or inshallah if you're watching on YouTube, we will also put the link in the description below. But of course, brothers and sisters, over the last week we've also seen a 1-year anniversary since the beginning of the genocide in Gaza. Of course, October the 7th took place on Monday this week, and now of course by the time this is coming out on Thursday, you would have had time to reflect on the last year and really what sort of atrocities we have been seeing, the astonishing human rights abuses that have been taking place, and unfortunately the direct effect it's had on millions and millions of people both living in the Middle East and worldwide. So let's get into today's conversation. There's a lot to talk about, and also we're going to kind of see where the conversation goes. As always, Sayyid Ali, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How's it going?
Alhamdulillah, so long as the heart is beating, the lungs are breathing, I can't complain. And I echo everything you mentioned in your intro, and I just want to mention, by the way, that they can donate so easily to this cause that we're doing, inshallah, raising funds to help those displaced in Lebanon via the Zahra Trust. The link is at the bottom.
Yeah.
Either you can find the link in our Instagram bio, or you can, scroll down this YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube and hit that button, and inshallah make that intention to contribute.
And you know what, Said? So we have been seeing obviously in Lebanon in the last 3 or 4 weeks, particularly the number of apartment buildings that have been blown up, that have been targeted and bombed by the Zionist entity. And it's amazing actually, because the Zahra Trust has actually procured 2 vacant apartment blocks to house these people. So we're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are now in a safe, and that's the key thing, a safe and secure place. And they're with people who will help them. They're people who deliver aid. And look, you and I both have like experience when it comes to delivery and logistics and that sort of thing. Right now, importing into Lebanon is impossible. There's no shipments going into Lebanon, and people can't import locally. Can't import worldwide, and procuring things locally is impossible as well. Skyrocketing rates of inflation locally, so even getting absolute basics is really difficult. That's why they need things like diapers and formula for babies. They need incontinence pads and bed sheets. They need all sorts of different basics, which we take for granted here. To be honest, in a lot of cases we don't really need them here, but people there are in desperate need. So really need you guys to step up, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah, and I know they will. Don't let us down. Don't let the Imam of your time down. Yani he's watching, he's looking, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you in the hereafter. Ahmed, have you donated personally?
I have. Well, I have, yes. I've pulled together with a few members of my family.
Amazing.
We've all put something forward, alhamdulillah. But I'm also talking because I know there's a lot of friends of mine at home and driving in the car right now on their way to work who are listening. Yes. So I'm counting on you guys, and those who know us and those who don't, please, inshallah. Said, I want to ask you. Listen, we've had now a year of this genocide taking place. Okay, when you look back on it, there's been it's just crazy, bro. There's so many things that have taken place in the last year. We've seen story after story after story developments. We've seen the ICJ case that was presented by South Africa. We've seen Benjamin Netanyahu and the US Congress have a standing ovation. We've seen stories of people on the ground who have lost their lives. We mentioned last week the stories of the young girls, Hind and Reem, and all of these stories that have just kind of taken us by storm. The bombing of Rafah after we were told that Rafah was a safe zone and can't be touched. And in terms of Gaza, a lot has happened over a year, and it feels like it's been an exhausting year. We've seen court cases in the UK over political demonstrations and resistance marches, which we're seeing here, and it just feels exhausting. But I guess there's so many angles you wouldn't even know where to begin. How do you kind of look back on it?
If I were to reflect on the last year, there's so much things I think to mention. I think one thing in particular for me on a personal level, Ahmed, if I'm real, is actually enforcing my belief in God. Right. Ask me why.
Go on.
Because I've seen like no one in this world currently with the ongoing genocide that's happening until now, no one's been held accountable, right? That tells me, bro, there's going to come a day of judgment where Allah's going to hold these men one by one, Ahmed, accountable. And there was something very beautiful that a very famous Sunni speaker said the other day that actually touched my heart. He was like, sadly how the Gazans at the moment, they don't really have peace in their burial. Sometimes even their graves are destroyed. And so he was like, can you just imagine the Gaza Strip in Jannah? All these shuhada that have been killed, right, unjustly, unfairly, and via oppression, their house in Jannah. If we're worried, he was like, the whole world is looking at the Gaza Strip, which is a very small strip, by the way, whether you look at it via its width or its length. But in Jannah, how 10 times, 50 times the size, inshallah, where it will house. These people will be housed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His paradise, inshallah. But back to my point in terms of belief, is genuinely, it makes me think if these people won't be held accountable in this dunya, alhamdulillah, that there is hisab wa kitab on the day of judgment. That day where people will beg for forgiveness, where people, they say on a day like that is when people will say, give me some of your deeds just to improve, where I stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but no one's going to share. No one's gonna, give up all their good rewards, because everyone wants a place in Jannah and everyone wants that day to be easy on them. And I can't wait for that day that I can actually see, inshallah, may Allah forgive my sins first, but see these people actually being held to account, from Netanyahu to Saddam to Yazid, all of them one by one. Nothing the entire Muslim ummah, the hearts will be at peace.
Do you know what? There's I think you're right about the effect it's had on the deen. And on my own iman as well. My surah of the week right now, Surah Al-Hashr, and there's an ayah in Surah Al-Hashr which is it's amazing how, subhanallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the Holy Quran in such a way where it is specific to a particular time and place, but at the same time it's eternal in its usage and its relevance. Do you see what I mean? So you could be in across the course of civilizations, there must have been so many conflicts where you had a superior, one may call, superior authoritarian whatever you may call entity, and then perhaps a lower oppressed people and those who feel like they have been marginalized and otherized. And in today's day and age, the example of that is the marginalization of the people of Gaza and Lebanon. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Hashr in chapter number 59 verse number 14, very specifically, even united Allah is talking about the disbelievers in this sentence, in this ayah.
Yeah.
Even united, they would not dare to fight you except from within their strongholds and from behind walls.
Yes.
Their malice for each other is intense. You think they're united, yet their hearts are divided. That is because there are people with no real understanding. They are both just like those who recently went down before them. They tasted the evil consequences of their doings, and they will suffer a painful punishment. Allah is talking about the unification of the enemies of Allah. Those who unify in their hatred towards Tawheed and towards the Mu'mineen, and those who align with the party of Shaitan and not with the party of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is specifically talking, I think, to people like us in this situation where you see a coalition of forces who are in many ways first world countries and who are technologically advanced and who have the backing of each other with billions and trillions of dollars. And excuse me. And you may think that they are unified in their cause, that you may think that they are strong behind their walls. Allah is saying they are not strong behind their walls, and they are unified in their evil, but the disunity enters their hearts and they have hatred towards one another. We just need to see now, without getting too political, the relationship between the US and Israel in this current point in time. When you look in the build-up to the US election, how Joe Biden has spoken in the last week's press conference in regards to his relationship with Israel and in terms of his retaliation.
What you mentioned is nice, is this doesn't necessarily just apply to now.
Yeah.
You can imagine Muslims in, say, the Ottoman Empire or the Persian Empire or during the Romans. These ayahs would have been in their mind at the same time.
Like in every period of history.
So we could think, okay, this links specifically with the genocide happening now, but it would have applied
100%
again and again and again over time.
But isn't that mad? Isn't that just absolutely like amazing? And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about something that sounds so specific, but has probably been applied to so many cases.
I love how you mentioned them being divided.
Yeah.
Because you know how everyone talks about the United States of America.
It
should be changed to the divided States of America. And that's true. Yani, we see how divided they are.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing, I think another thing that comes to my attention when I think about reflecting on the last year of the events that have taken place. I mean, there's so much things that's happened in the last year, but the core one is this genocide in Gaza, which is the hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I say hypocrisy not just in terms of what they say, but in terms of what they represent. Yani if the USA here is saying, you know, we represent the world's best democracy.
Yeah.
Mate, when your 70-80% of your citizens are calling for a ceasefire at least, which is the very minimum, and you do quite the opposite, you fund the genocide far away from any ceasefire, like, are you truly representing democracy? And it proves democracy, I think, is just something that suits a bunch of thugs in suits.
And it's the US and many other Western governments have been repeatedly studied and kind of hypothesized to be considered oligarchies and not democracies as such.
We are the free world.
Yeah, bro. And look, like if you think about it as well, the West has had, over a course of decades, if not centuries, this divide and conquer mechanism and this tactic. And it's in such a way to disunite the Muslims from one another, to disunite communities, to disunite Sunni and Shia and neighbors from one another. And unfortunately, you can see the repercussions of those who believe this narrative taking place here in the West, as well as obviously in the Middle East. So in the last few months, of course, we've had the genocide in Gaza Beirut. We've also had, for example, we've had ban on hijab in universities in France. We've had riots in the UK. We've had anti-Islamic gun crime in the US. All of these point back to the dehumanization of a population by using the word and the term Muslim.
Yeah.
And Islam, Islam has now become, unfortunately, a label which society has pinned on people to say that these people are slightly different, they look slightly different, they act slightly different. And we've seen, for example, in the UK politics, you know, again, we don't want to get too political, but like in the Conservative Party leadership race right now, of the 4 candidates who are still in the race, one of them, who's a black, young daughter of an immigrant here in the UK, is demonizing Muslims and basically saying they're different to us. Now, let me ask you, because you come from, for example, an African community where in some, or if not most African cultures, women cover their hair, men answer the door when men approach, but then you point at something like that as the cause of why Muslims may be considered backwards in your eyes. Is that what it is? Where in the same societies where we have Hollywood, where we have sexual abuse cases, where we have harassment cases in workplaces, 2 people a day die of domestic violence in the UK, 2 women a day. Are you telling me that this is a first world, secularized, civilized, first world society that respects women, and Islam, which preserves hijab, which preserves the right of a woman when it comes to inheritance, when it comes to proposing for marriage, when it comes to
brother, the right of divorce.
Bro, the right of divorce. All of these rights that women have in Islam, which alhamdulillah
Islam introduced them, by the way. They were the first faith.
And you talk about Muslim countries in the world where there are Muslim countries where women have higher literacy rates, graduation rates than, for example, the US. As an example, you have more chemical engineers in Iran than you have in the US who are female. And these are, it all goes back to the root cause of, if you can divide them, then ultimately the dumb Muslims will go with the flow. They'll take the dollars and they'll fall for the narrative and fall for the lies, and they'll go with the flow. And the dumb non-Muslims will also go with the flow. In reality, they will believe tabloid media. They'll believe sensationalist speeches by the likes of Trump and whatnot. Do you know what I mean? So this polarization, like this far left and far right, which we're seeing in the world today, is only becoming more so.
You mentioned something very interesting. You said, Muslims can believe the media.
When
it's against them, ultimately us, right? And that actually proves a point. I like every time, like alhamdulillah, we came back not too long ago from Karbala. We went to Ziyarah, right?
Just talking about before the pod.
Alhamdulillah for that opportunity, and inshallah, year in, year out, we have that opportunity, inshallah, to go for Ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein on his 40th, the Arba'een. But many people choose not to go. They yearn to go, but they don't want to go. Why? Because they look at the news outlets.
Oh, come on, man.
And they see, for example, the amount of fear that's just, being spoken about certain parts of the world, mainly the Muslim world, where it's a dangerous place to go, where it's a place where there is no rights, there is no respect, And what's funny during the whole experience this year is that we met a number of Western individuals, right?
Yeah.
And they all had something very similar. They all said something very common, where they didn't expect Iraq, for example, this Muslim country, to be the way it was. The positivity that they had during their visit was something completely different to what they've been told from back home, right? I mentioned something very interesting to one of the brothers, and I was like, how there's always this fear of, people are forcing hijab on women, and women are like second-class citizens and things like that. I was like, in the Middle East, bro, it's the other way around. In the West, it's like we sort of sexualize and make women objects.
100%.
Right? Whereas over there, we protect them. There is this thing where a lady can, for example, know that she will be safer in Iraq than to walk in the streets of central London past midnight, for example.
Why?
Right?
Why? Go on, tell me why.
Because we have this thing, like, I think on 2 levels. Number one, I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instilled in every human being from the day they're born this notion of ghira, right? Now, as Muslims, alhamdulillah, we emphasize on this a lot, and we're nurtured on this, and it's God given to us as men, right? In the Western world, this is taught as a bad thing. Let them do what they want. Let them. I don't want to change the subject completely. But there's also certain things that remove this ghira from an individual. Like Islamically, we know, for example, one of them is haram food. When you eat haram food, it decreases your ghira levels as a man, right? So I was telling him basically, if we want to judge one of the most discussed points in the Western world against our regions, our Muslim lands, is that women are treated like second-class citizens, whereas let's just look at here. Let's just compare it with the UK. I remember there was a statistic the other day in terms of sexual assault on women in the UK is the highest in Europe.
I wouldn't be surprised. Look at how a Muslim man treats his mother, or a Muslim father treats his daughter, and look at in this society how kids swear at their mothers, how in public they are drinking alcohol and smoking with their mothers.
Subhanallah, you said something to me right now And I had a memory
Yeah.
back to secondary school, year 7 or year 8. I remember those time I had like a phone. We can call our parents after school, you know, play Snake. That was it. It was Nokia 3210s, whatever they were.
Yeah.
I forgot the model numbers. But I remember there was also, I had like white friends. Like when they chat to their parents, they'll call their parent by their name.
No way.
Yeah, man. Like if their
That's
dad,
crazy.
if their dad is called like David, like he doesn't say father or
That's
dad.
crazy.
He goes David. I'm like, what? I'm shocked,
that's
right?
crazy, bro.
So that's one level of respect abolished. Like it doesn't exist.
Bro,
but at the
that's
same
nuts.
time, they would use like language that you don't even use with your friends, and you talk like that with your parents.
That's disgusting. And unfortunately, it kind of affects Muslim youth in the UK and in the US and across the Western world.
Yeah.
When you allow yourself as teenagers or whatever to be surrounded by that, and you don't pin it down, do you know what I mean? And also, bro, just like coming back to it, the way people treat their mothers here, who you could be born and raised in a Western society, but be born into a Muslim household. The way you respect your mother and your grandmother and your aunts and your sisters, and when you move out or you get married, the love you show for your wife, you know, the sweetness in which you speak to your wife, inshallah, we hope so. The praise in which you give your wife, the way she goes out of her way for you. Then you have daughters, the way you protect your daughters, the way you care about how they leave the house. You care about how they present themselves to the world. You want them to focus on building their identity, their ruh, their intellect, their aql. You want them to go out and define themselves by who they are, what they believe, what they learn, what they teach, rather than how long their hair is and what color, and whether it's curly or straight, or you know how short their skirt is. These are not things which we characterize as definition. We don't characterize a woman by these things. We don't define a woman by these kind of visible and aesthetic qualities. Unfortunately, these are characteristics which we look down on.
I think, Ahmed, you say very, very good points there. And I think it's something that we can all reflect on. And even if we have a non-Muslim audience listening right now, I think there's something they can look into and benefit from, inshallah. But I want to go back now to the reflections we discussed a bit earlier on, if you allow me, which is, I think there was one other reflection that I think is very critical when it comes to looking back at this entire genocide that's unfolding, right? And, you know, many people, and I think even people who were never interested in this before have spoken about it now, which is, for example, Muslim unity, right? But for me, it's a level more. It's made me realize, like, the Shia community is so fragmented, it's so broken that no one wants to work with each other. Like, no one wants to come together. And I thought something hit my mind. This was literally, I think, after the episode we filmed with Hassan Qadri, may Allah bless him, who we had last week air, right? Yeah. It made me think, like, I genuinely believe this. I could be wrong, right? And maybe I want your opinion on this, yeah? I think one of the reasons why our 12th Imam al-Mahdi, Ajjalallah Ta'ala Farajh al-Sharif, is not apparent to us yet. It's because look at the state we're in. We have one camp, you know, doing takfir of the other camp. One side, you know, speaking ill of the other side. Whereas when you come to look at it, bro, we all believe in the same thing. Yeah. And even if we have different camps, right? I think it's fine. I think possibly healthy competition is the wrong word to use when it comes to this in terms of faith and iman. But what are we doing that's outside the folds of Islam? Like, why are we fighting with each other? Why are we, you know, speaking ill of one another? Why do we have to be in such a state where we're not really focused on Imam al-Mahdi's arrival, may Allah hasten his reappearance, and we're more focused on what does this marja say, what does this scholar say, what did this speaker say? And it made me think, I think as a community, we're good, we love to work with one another. But I think it's the hierarchy, it's those, I think, a level or two, perhaps 5 above us. I wouldn't say our ulama, may Allah protect them, respect them. I think sometimes the speakers, and I love a lot of them, right? But I think at times they're part of the problem, Ahmed. I don't think they do good in terms of uniting Shia with Shia.
Can I disagree with you? Because
of course. It's an opinion.
I think whether it's as Muslims, as Shias, as Arabs, we inherently know that we don't agree with one another. Like, as a Shia, I know I disagree with a Sunni. A Sunni might see me as a kafir, I see him as a kafir, whatever. It doesn't matter. And we know that we can coexist, but it's the ones who are higher up who are using that to divide and conquer.
Are we talking about Shia unity or Sunni Shia unity?
No. So as in our speakers, for example, telling us, for example, this group is wrong.
Yeah.
Is that they're teaching us our hukum, what we believe in. They're teaching us our beliefs.
Okay.
And we can still know that and live and exist with them.
Are we talking about Sunnis?
Shias and Sunnis, for example.
So you're talking about Shia.
I'm talking about Shia. So let's...
Yeah, but I'm saying that whole thing exists throughout.
So even across Shia unity.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So you say it's fine?
Yeah, as in maybe
Wait,
you'd say,
are you saying it's fine?
No, I'm saying even if you disagree, for example, there's another marji' that says doing X is wrong,
Yeah,
that makes me
is
wrong.
Fine. As long as we're not doing takfir and fighting with each other, that's nothing else.
No, but it's fine.
It's not fine, bro.
Like if I believe a certain marji' says something,
Yeah.
say a marji' comes out and says X Sahabi was a good person.
Like Khalid ibn Walid, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the conversations.
It's like, okay,
today.
let him think that, but I'm not gonna go out my way to now takfir.
Yeah, we can counter that argument,
I can tell you I disagree with
Hang
him.
on, we can counter the argument, but we can't call him a kafir. We can't start fighting with him and brushing them all in terms of hellfire. That's wrong, bro.
Can I tell you
Because
guys
that's
something?
what causes the disunity.
I was speaking on TikTok for the first and only time.
Oh my days.
You
went live?
Huh?
You went live?
I went live for the first time. Did I not tell you this story?
I can't remember. Go on.
Basically, a month ago or so, I was on TikTok for once in a month I get bored, or like once every 2 months, and I just want to check out if we're posting all our reels. So I go on TikTok, so I go check it out, and I saw this Instagram live, and there's always this Sunni Shia dialogue on Instagram live. And
Constant.
there were three brothers. No, there were two brothers in the room. Actually, there were three. I'm just going to summarize it. One of them was Tafdili Batri, as in his own words, self kind of prescribed. He believes in the legitimate, in his words, the legitimate khilafah of the first three caliphs, but he also believes in the 12 imams as spiritual leaders, but not as divinely appointed ai*imma on earth. It's a bit confusing. Whatever, that's this conversation for another day.
Okay.
Then there was a guy who calls himself a Salafi. They were talking about the Shia, right? So the Salafi brother said, I do takfir on all Shia because they reject Abu Bakr. So I was like, okay.
I reject them, and what?
So he basically said, what'd you say?
Huh?
What'd you say?
I said I reject them, and what?
Yeah, I mean, so he goes that the grounds for me doing takfir is rejection of him.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's a bit crazy, because then you're doing takfir on something based on something that's not usul ad-din or furu' ad-din for Sunni or Shia.
Yeah.
Like especially for Shia, like it's not part of our usul ad-din to believe in any of the Sahaba, for example, as to have a good or a bad opinion of them.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to correct this guy. So I jumped on the live and I was like, brother, with the greatest respect, firstly, if I politically disagree with the right of a so-called Sahaba to have a position of authority, that's a political decision that I disagree with. For example, someone's been put in a certain position. That's a decision I've made after conclusiveness and academic research and studying hadith and studying X, Y, and Z. That's not something you can do takfir on. I said, unless you're disputing La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and for example, you are rejecting core tenets of Islam.
Yeah.
Long story short, the other brother agreed with me, and then this guy agreed with me. Then I said to him, I was like, would you apply the same logic to Ali? So if someone hates Imam Ali alayhi salam, would you do takfir on them? He's like, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Anyone who disrespects, this was the key word he used, anyone who disrespects Amir al-Mu'mineen, they're kafir. I was like, khair, what about Muawiyah? I asked him. He's like, nah, bro. He's like, let's step back a bit. He's like, nah, Muawiyah never disrespected Ali. So I was like, what do you think? Flipping Safin, like what do they do in Safin, bro?
Yeah.
They go go-karting or something.
They played hide and seek.
Play paintball, hide and seek.
Honestly.
Come on, bro.
Duck, goose.
Honestly, what do you think they're doing in Safin? Putting spears at each other. Quran's on the
But
spears.
this is why I said, like, when you referenced, you were paraphrasing what the brother was saying, where he was like, he does takfir on anyone who rejects Abu Bakr. I said, I reject Abu Bakr. Because I
But
don't
the thing
take
is,
him
Said, like,
as the
this is the core thing.
rightly guided caliph, right?
Yeah.
So-
You don't have to. It's not. Like, listen, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam never came and said, to be a Muslim, you have to follow these people after me, except for one group. Right? And we know who that one group are. The Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. He never said that about a certain group, other group. A group who he was not related to by blood. A group who he did not give certain privileges that he gave the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And a group that did not in any stage of their life, even in their past life, even 20, 30 years prior, they never sided against the Prophet Muhammad. So they never sided with the kuffar. They never sided in battle against the Holy Prophet. We are talking now about certain Sahaba who, for example, certain Muslims will say he was the greatest warrior in the history of Islam. Like, we're talking about Muslims who in certain battles sided against the Holy Prophet. Okay? These people are now called Saif Allah, for example. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, in earlier times in their lives, they were pointing that safe at the Rasulullah. Do you get what I'm saying? These guys are baffled. Do you know what I'm saying? So there's not a condition to believe to believe in certain people in order to be Muslim. So that's a key point, yeah? I'm just going to clarify one or two more points, because there are people who say to me, oh, you guys are best sectarian on the podcast. Brother, relax.
West sectarian?
Yeah, people say it to me. Relax. First things first.
Hang on. Is Shia telling you West sectarian?
Yeah, friends of ours. But listen,
may Allah bless
we are, like, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, he's saying, don't talk about things which instigate our brothers in Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
Let's cancel Fatimiyya next week. Let's see how
Wallah al-Azim, we respect our brothers in Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah if they respect us. Okay? Because we believe in respectfulness. Okay? We show akhlaq. We see anyone on the street, they're not Muslim, we show akhlaq. Okay? We believe in that. Secondly, doesn't mean that we suddenly conceal our beliefs, unless, of course, there's a very, very, very like special case for that, but we're not in that case. Okay? Thirdly, you know, we can have dialogue about conversations which are openly Shia without being offensive. I strongly believe that, and I know we have Sunni listeners, and I love our Sunni listeners, and I want to shout out brother Kashif, who always, I don't know if you've seen,
he's a top G.
Yeah, I'm always chatting to him on DMs after Maghrib. He's one of my favorite listeners. He's always DMing us he's a listener of the show, so shout out to you. So I just want to make that abundantly clear, because we believe in unity. At least I speak for myself, okay? We believe in unity in the ummah.
So you need to change it to I believe in unity.
Yeah, I believe in unity in the ummah. I do believe in unity. Yeah. But how you define unity as a Western term and whatnot is a very broad thing. Because I don't believe in uniting with Wahhabis.
This is the tricky thing, right?
You know what I'm saying? The guys who want to raise Jannat al-Baqi to the ground, Karbala to the ground. Why the hell would I want to unite with them?
And it's good that you raise this right now, because I was going to say, who doesn't believe in unity, right? Like, which sane, I think, human with morals and principles and mannerism of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim afdal salatu wa salam does want to break bread with a fellow Muslim, right? But our problem, and I think we have to be real about it, Ahmed, our problem, I don't think any of us have an issue with Sunnis. I think this is something that has to be clear. Like, even the Shia saying we're sectarian, bro, I think we should be comfortable discussing our beliefs, whatever they are, right? Same thing goes to the other side. They have something they believe in, they can discuss it, no problem. And inshallah we can, find out at the end of the day, on the day of judgment, inshallah, who is on the path of Sarat al-Mustaqim. But ultimately, as Shia, we don't have an issue with Sunnis. Our problem, and I think we have to be clear about it, our problem is those who do takfir with us.
100%.
Takfir on us.
100%.
I wallah al-azim, Ahmed, qasaman billah.
Yeah.
I say, وحق العباس, وحق علي ibn Abi Talib, وحق ضلع الزهراء, yeah. I have never been told by a Shi'i that a Sunni is a kafir. In my entire life. Wallah al-azim, my entire life, no one has told me, not my father, not my mother, not my Arabic school teacher, no one has ever told me a fellow Sunni is a kafir.
Yeah.
It's always come towards us. So I'm not blaming them. I'm not blaming them. But I think something that really changed, if I reflect back onto Gaza, is that it allowed, I think, Muslims who are Sunni Muslims, and when I say Sunni Muslims, I'm not chatting about your Salafis and Madkhalis and Ma'arif, I'm talking about those who follow the students of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam, the Hanafi, the Shafi'i, the Maliki. I think those people, the majority of them have understood, number one, that we don't have those beliefs. Our speakers who speak on our behalf have been telling us this, right?
You mean in terms of moderate beliefs, not in terms of schools of fiqh?
Yeah. Right? Yeah. For example, like the people I used to be in school with, like when I was in secondary school, I had so much Sunni friends.
Of course.
Ahmed, I had so much, it was like a majority Muslim school. And I had so much Sunni friends, and half the time they'll debate me that I'm a kafir. I'm, praying on cookies and XYZ.
Usual stuff.
Things like that, right? But then I realized that they don't truly believe this, Ahmed.
Yeah, it's just to wind each other up.
No, it's not just that. It's, they've been told this.
Yes,
Do you understand?
No, but whether they're told or whether they believe it.
But Gaza changed everything.
Yeah.
I'm not joking, because now you have a lot, alhamdulillah.
Sunni
Allah
Shia,
subhanahu wa ta'ala has, I think, allowed the hearts of many of our Sunni Muslim brothers to open up towards the Shia, right?
And bro, to be honest, I think it's the same reverse as well. Because now as Shia Muslims, look, if you look in the last 15, 20 years, a lot of the conflict which has been happening, at least in the last 15, 20 years, has directly affected a lot of Shia. So we see a lot of Shia in Yemen, for example, who have been targeted. We see Shia in Syria, of course, that's kind of a separate conversation we talked about a lot last week. But of course, the Shia in Syria were involved in conflict. The Shia of Iraq were directly targeted. Shia in Pakistan are targeted. We were talking about Shia of Lebanon in 2006. But the point being is, like, now we are standing firm, very much so, with overwhelmingly majority Sunni population. And not just that, a population which does have Nasibis residing within it. There are people who hate us as Shias who live in Gaza. We don't dispute that. Like people saying, oh, but some of them are pro-Saddam. Okay. All right. So what? Like, do you know what I mean? Humanity goes beyond your political allegiances. I do think that some of their beliefs are wrong. But I also know that there are people in Gaza who are doing Wiladat Amir al-Mu'mineen, who are doing celebration. Or who are, for example, saying Kullu Yawm al-Ashura, Kullu Ardhin Karbala. And we see this. We've actually seen it spray painted on the wall, the apartheid wall in Gaza. Do you know what I mean? Like, these are things which pull us together as a community, because Sunni and Shia can unite for a cause, and that is to stop the blood of innocent children falling on the floor. Do you know what I'm saying?
I fully understand, and maybe I didn't finish my point as well a bit earlier on when it comes to this Sunni Shia Muslim unity thing, right? Is that no one is saying that you can't unite, but I think there has to be a clear distinction between what that unite means. It's like,
what it looks like.
Okay, yes, we differ with our beliefs, but we can coexist.
Yeah, we agree to disagree.
I think we can agree to disagree agreeably, right, on many things, but we can't unite with falsehood. And that's why I separated. I said, for example, Madkhalis and Salafis and things like this, because these are people we cannot unite with. These 100%. Are people who our blood is halal for them. Spilling our blood grants them Jannah.
Of course.
This is the people that we don't want to unite with.
100%,
so this is something
100%.
something we have to be clear with. And one more point to add, I think, when it comes to like Muslim unity, like especially now on a global level, on the political stage, this is something very important. And without it, I think there's going to be chaos for every Muslim land. Every Muslim is going to be affected, whether you're Sunni or Shi'i. If you don't politically unite, at least on a political level, and defeat this common enemy, they're going to come for you, bro. I'm telling you. If they manage to, if they've been doing this for 70 years in Palestine, and now they're trying to do it once more again in Lebanon, bro, have you seen Greater Israel? It includes Iraq.
Oh, bro.
Bro, it includes Saudi Arabia. Believe it or not. Bro, they're coming for your land. And these people ain't going to stop until I think they settle everywhere. They're settlers at the end of the day, right? They want to take over the region because...
The thing is, Said, like, we've seen... Sorry to cut you off, bro. But we see extremism in every form, in every society. So we see extremism here in the UK. And we see this, like we talked about earlier, the abhorrent EDL riots that took place, which don't represent an English society, which generally speaking is quite not even tolerable, but friendly and easy to be with and easy to work with. And we just look at like our colleagues at work and our relationship with these guys. In the same way, we see in Sunni society the extremes, the fundamentalists, and those who, like you said, our blood is halal for them. We see in the Jewish religion the ethno-supremacist Zionists who in the same way want to expand and conquer, who see themselves as a superior race, who are more worthy of land and rights and in essence excuse me, in essence, see themselves as God's chosen people on earth, how can anyone unite?
They've become Hujjatullah. Sorry.
They become Hujjatullah. How can anyone unite with any people who think that they are superior, a superior race? And when we talk about the destruction of a Zionist entity, we're not talking about the removal or the genocide of people. Let's be very clear, because when South Africa, the apartheid system in South Africa was dismantled, white South Africans weren't removed from the face of the earth. Do you see what I mean? The dismantling of a political system which sees themselves as superior and which sees people as subhuman needs to be removed. That is essential. This dismantling is essential. And the same, of course, like I said, goes for the extremist Sunnis. And this brings me on to now when we talk about the Shia.
Before you move on, I think it goes on towards like getting rid of that Zionist entity that wants to constantly remove our communities. So like in the past, we've always had where these have been, as in the I don't know what you call them, the revolts against the Muslims have always been funded by these entities. So where you have like the anti-government Iranians funded by Israel, or you have like the Myanmar killing of Muslims funded by Israel, or the Sudanese rebels, or the Syrian rebels. These are always funded to like divide us and conquer us.
SubhanAllah, everything goes back to this entity.
And listen, do you know what's ironic as well? That this group, it's like you said, it's a twisted version of a religion which we believe is Abrahamic, Ahl al-Kitab.
Do
you know what I mean?
It's not the
absolutely
original preserved.
Do you know how mad that is? Do you know how mad that is? That, for example, have you heard about the red heifer?
Red
heifer. What's it called? Red heifer. The cow, the red cow, right? You've read about this.
Yes.
And you've read, and in their mind, was it you who mentioned to me, Said, or someone else? About the fact that they believe that this greater Israel is their right for the coming of their Messiah.
Yes.
Such that they need to conquer these lands in preparation for their Messiah. Now, when we talk about preparation for our Imam, we're talking about being a pure soul, a nafs which does not lie and steal. We're talking about respecting your parents and doing as much sujood as you can and doing jihad al-akbar and asghar. Like, we're talking about things which are like, very peaceful and good and halal. And we're not talking about conquering or invading and killing children and all of this stuff. Absolute nonsense, honestly.
It's proper nonsense. And
people don't see it.
You mentioned killing children. SubhanAllah, today I literally thought, Wallah, I was thinking to myself, Ahmed, I was like, haven't they had enough of children's blood being spilt? I genuinely,
no difference to
my genuine thoughts here is that when 7th of October started, and we all know that's not when it actually started, but let's say that's when I think the world's eyed open to was truly behind the intentions of Israel, right? Is that I thought at the very beginning this may last a month or two and it's going to end, bro, because they know they've killed so much. But I don't think they have a limit. I don't think there's a limit to how much mutilated bodies that they want to see and achieve. And it's scary. It's scary that I think I don't want to blame us as individuals as the problem. Because I think on a political level, I think ultimately it's down to the leaders of the countries to do something about it. But we've sort of allowed it to happen because we were all asleep all these years, right? Like whenever someone told me, for example, did you know this is happening in Palestine? And I said, when we had the episode with Sister Batul, I was like, it didn't bother me, so I didn't care. But if I was passive and I was like part of that problem that I didn't care, it's led to this. If we all cared, right? If we all genuinely cared from the very beginning, or understood what is happening in Palestine from the very, very beginning, I don't think it would have reached the stage, because hypocrisy has become truth, the truth has become lies, and what do we have left? We've got nothing, bro. Like the only people that actually want to help anyone or see any, resolve to the ongoing genocide. I don't want to keep saying it, but bro, I genuinely think only the Shia care. I know all Muslims do,
but
right?
To be honest, bro,
but in terms of leadership, and leadership is very important to this, because look, you can have a leader who's leading Israel, who's leading them to their own destruction, and ultimately at the end of the day, what are they leading? They're leading on blood. They're leading on bombs. They're leading on what, Ahmed? And then look at the other world, the other side of this coin, right? Look at their leadership level. look at their skill set, look at how they govern, look at how they speak, how they treat civilians. Bro, it's mad. Yeah. It's mad. There's no comparison between the two. It's like North Pole and South Pole.
100%.
Haqq and batil, truth and falsehood. Yazid, Muawiyah, Hussein and Al-Hassan. Look at it.
Yeah.
It's that clear. But we've allowed it to reach that stage. Same thing if we go back in Islamic history, and maybe for the sake of unity I don't mention everything, but if we go back to Islamic history, I think, I genuinely believe this, and I may be wrong in my thoughts, right? But the reason why the majority of the Muslim world is asleep and don't give a flying monkey, and I don't want to use that word, I'll prefer to use other words, but flying monkey is the most respectful thing right now on this podcast, is that because if we go look at previous leaders in Islamic history, this was the norm. This was normal. Saifullah, whether he's fighting for the justice of Allah, whatever he says is hujjah. He doesn't care. He wants to kill, we go kill. He wants to rape and assault one of the companions of Rasulullah, or rape his mother, rape his wife, Khalid bin Walid, I'll say as it is, right? But we call him Saifullah. This is our problem. We know it's wrong, and we say, no problem, only God can judge them. And this is why Palestine is where it is today.
Yeah.
It's part of the problem, is that, as I'm trying to not make it sectarian here, Ahmed, but I think this is reality, and I think everyone should question themselves that the reason why the majority of the Muslim world is asleep is that history repeats itself. And look at our own history. Where are the leaders of the Muslim world? They were killing those on haqq. They were shedding the blood of those who wanted to instill the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They didn't care. They cared about what? Power. They cared about fame and reign and land and conquering other lands as well, right? They all talk about this golden age of Muslims, conquering the world and spreading Islam. Spreading Islam by what? When Rasulullah said, Islam was like spread and saved with the sword of Ali and the wealth of Khadijah. When he speaks about the sword of Imam Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, he's talking about defense, not this bloodthirsty offense.
Yeah.
Right? Anyhow, your thoughts?
No, I think there's a lot to unpack there. Look, a year ago, I put on Instagram, I think 2 or 3 days after the conflict started.
Yeah.
I basically had a bit of a rant. Someone from my following list screenshotted it and shared it on a WhatsApp group. Okay. Before I know it, it did the rounds in the community and it came back to me a few times. But in essence, I ranted a bit because I think probably 3 or 4 days after the genocide began, I was like, where are half of the community in terms of our community? And I still feel a level of frustration, personally speaking, because we look to our scholars, we look to our community leaders, we look to those who are well known and respected in our communities to be those who lead us in voice and in pen, and those who represent our aqidah through their action and their words. Till now, we still see organizations, we still see individuals who we have had high respect for over the years when it comes to their level of religious knowledge or their level of involvement and khidmat for the community, but who have not said a word about Palestine, or who have been very minimalistic just to kind of do a tick box when it comes to it as well. So that obviously annoys me. And now with Lebanon, I mentioned this last week, like you're now speaking up, like what's the difference? There's a clear difference there. It's because one's Sunni and one's Shia. In terms of the second thing you mentioned about the Muslim leaders and history repeating itself, ultimately history will repeat itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran on so many occasions about do you not reflect, and multiple occasions. I was actually on I was doing a class a couple of days ago, and the topic of discussion was reflection, and how many instances in the Holy Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, do you not think, do you not reflect? And he tells us that as a rhetorical question. Why? To try and like shake us, like wake up, think about what's around you, think about if it's happened before, have we learned our lesson as a race? Do you know what I mean? And perhaps not. And the last thing, actually the first thing you mentioned, but the last thing I'll say is you said, do they feel no shame or no pity for those children that they're murdering currently? apparently 18,000 children have been killed in Gaza. Apparently.
Definitely more.
And apparently 300 kids have been killed in Lebanon. But I don't believe those statistics, because we know from the Lancet Journal that between 200,000 and 300,000 people have been killed by Israel in the last year, directly or indirectly. And even indirectly, still directly, because you're bombing hospitals. People lose their lives because they have no access to medical care. We're talking about people who, for example, and I've just got it here, Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel, said there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. 2 million people, the most dense population on earth and the smallest strip of land on earth, half of which are children. There are no civilians who are innocent in Gaza. Let's process that. So you're telling me that of those 2 million, of which 1 million are under 18, i.e. what? They were born in 2006 when the last conflict happened. There is no innocence there. Another example, the defense minister, who we call the terror minister, Yoav Gallant, absolute animal. He said, I'm saying to the civilians, this is last November. He goes, I'm saying to the civilians of Lebanon, if Hezbollah makes mistakes of this kind, the ones yada 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 yada, what we are doing in Gaza, we know how to do it in Beirut. The signs have been there. The desire to divide and conquer has been there. Again and again and again, the dehumanization, the marginalization that people in Gaza have been seeing for 76 years is now coming to the brim. And people are now just starting to see that this narrative of cleansing, of just eradicating the existence of all people, treating people like they're subservients, is absolutely atrocious. And now we're seeing that in the form of violence and aggression towards the Palestinian people. So do they have, going back to the question, do they have no shame? No, they don't have any shame. They don't care whether it's 18,000 kids who are being killed, 100,000 kids who are being killed, 1 million kids who are being killed. To be really frank, they say it in their own words. There is no innocence, no innocent civilians in Gaza. So we won't rest until we achieve liberation for the Palestinian people. And I don't think a lot of people will. I think one thing we've seen over the last year is we've seen people from all corners of the globe come together to stand for Palestine. And now for Lebanon. We've seen people who have different backgrounds, different social classes, different community origins come together for one core reason, and that cause is liberation. That causes resistance. And we're seeing that day in and day out. I think everyone should be very proud of themselves.
It's so true. And the beautiful thing about when we see, the people who come out in support of being anti-genocidal, right? In support of, let's say, the Palestinian resistance and the Lebanese resistance, is that they're not just Muslim. They're from all walks of life, from different faiths, different races, different backgrounds. And what unites all of them? What is it? Humanity. Yani if you don't see something wrong, and if you don't speak up against it, there's something wrong with your humanity. You are not human. Ultimately, you're not human. Yani if it doesn't affect you, if it doesn't pain you, if it doesn't make you even lift your hands and make dua for them, there's something definitely wrong with you. And now it's spreading. It's like a cancer. I said it last week. If there's no end to this entity, they're going to come for everyone, not just me and you. They're going to come for every land possible.
Well, what they don't know is we have a leader, and he is alive, and he's well, and he can't be located, and they will not be able to target him. And we await him, inshallah. When he comes, we'll be ready, inshallah. We hope to prepare and develop our communities and such that we're ready to welcome him with open arms. And we pray that he will welcome us into his circle, his government, his Ansar with open arms, inshallah. May
Allah hasten his reappearance,
inshallah. Ilahi Amin. Brothers and sisters, just to wrap up, as we said at the beginning, we are doing this fundraiser for Lebanon in collaboration with the Zahra Trust. So please do everything you can to support, whatever it is, 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds. If you can do more, then please do. The money is going directly to those immediately in need in Lebanon. So you can find those details in our on our Instagram, or by clicking the link in this bio. And lastly, subscribe. We're trying to get to 5 million subscribers. We're just 4.9 million away. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, inshallah.
You never know.
You never know, bro. Like, before the year's over, So,
Inshallah.
Inshallah. All right, guys. Say any last words?
Just keep us in your du'as, and inshallah we'll do the same. Assalamu
Labbaik ya
alaikum
Hussein.
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.